We're gonna brake boost this a little bit. Again, this is acceleration when it's 23 degrees outside, and I guess the car's not giving us full power. Oh, that still punches, wow. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be going over the all-new Volvo C40. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get right into it. With the C40, we have a dual electric motor setup that's paired to a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now, total range is 226 miles with power outputs being 402 horsepower and then 486 pound-feet of torque. And what you see, there's not an engine under here. There's just, well, a charging cable with some storage space. Before we go over the front end, I do want to mention if you see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Starting with the hood here, the design is pretty simplistic. It's flat there in the center, then you guys can see these sharp body lines on either side. And then coming down below, this has, you know, distinctive Volvo styling. So you guys can see the Thor's Hammer LED daytime running light. And look how that illuminates. That is pretty cool. You've got the Volvo logo front and center with the camera there at the bottom of the logo. And then most everything's closed off on the front end because, well, it's fully electric. It does have fog lights too. When you bring it all together, I do think this is a really attractive looking EV. Coming around the side here, our tire and wheel setup is 235, 45, 20 in the front and over in the rear as well. And you can see with the overall design on the wheels how you've got the silver there on the top and the black below that. And the wheels mostly closed off for aerodynamic efficiency. And then taking a look at the full side profile here, you guys can see how the trim around the windows is all blacked out. You got the mirror that's blacked out, which is pretty cool. And then the trim at the bottom is darker. It's not painted though, it's just exposed plastic, but I think it looks good. Now here's our key fob for this C40. You got the Volvo logo there front and center. We have our lock function or unlock function and the opening for the hatch, and well, not a lot happening over there, but we do have our little alarm button there on the other side. But anyways, hold that down and it'll pop it right open. When it comes to storage space in the rear of the C40, it's actually really solid. You guys can see here, we actually have a space where you could put a cargo cover if you want. And then there's even more storage space underneath as well. So even though it's not a large vehicle, it's pretty practical. And then there's a bunch of different ways to close it. You can close it with the key fob. Notice it's got the little kick feature, but you can also just press the button and that will lower the hatch down too. And the next cool party trick pertains to the taillights here. So you can see it has a cool startup animation just like the front lights. And then you got the Volvo logo there in the center. And then we have this really interesting spoiler. And then of course we have our Recharge Twin badge. And then we do have parking sensors there at the bottom. And then everything put together, I do think the new C40 actually looks really solid. Again, for an EV, it's one of the EVs that I find attractive. Notice keyless entry. And this is where I love what Volvo does. So you can see really nice padding here, pretty normal, but then look at the blue carpeting there in the door panel. You got your window control, your lock function, and the handle itself is actually really nice, but that's funky. Now popping inside, this might look like it has some leather trim, but it is not in fact leather. This has a completely vegan interior. It's what a lot of electric car makers are going for. And then again, look at the blue carpeting. Legroom's actually really solid back here. We got a little storage net. We've got some vents here, heated seats down below, got a charging port on top of that. And then headroom's also really good. And of course, it has a cup holder armrest with more vegan material. The front continues the theme with the padding and then the contrast with the blue. You guys can see all the window controls here and then the mirror adjustments. You do have memory seats, Harman Kardon sound system, which is really good in this car. And then look at that trim right there. You got the mirrors, which do have blind spot monitoring, and there's the panel. Front seats are pretty much the same as the rear. You can see with the inserts there, and then look at all the stitching. They look fantastic. And then we do have our adjustments here on the side, and then yes, more of that blue carpeting. I do a bunch of transition clips here, but to show this, I have to do all one clip. So shut the door, and then put your foot on the brake, and then put the car in drive, and then it's all on. But if you aren't ready to move yet, and you just have the car in park, it's still on. It's just that it fully turns on with like everything once you put it into drive, if that makes sense. Starting with the steering wheel, soft touch all around. You've got like the darker stitching there in the center, and then we've got some controls here for like the center stack, voice command controls. We have our adaptive cruise control, and then of course turn signal light stalk, windshield wiper stalk. Now we have this really cool full digital gauge cluster here in the center, and it shows you all the important information, including that navigation screen there. But if you don't want the screen, you can press the pages button and it'll get rid of it. Now notice it not only shows me my range percentage, but it also shows me, hey, the battery's cold right now because it's cold outside. So that is going to affect range and also acceleration to an extent. Now in reverse here, we do have a really nice backup camera with trajectory lines that turn the steering wheel. And if we tap the screen, we can do the 360 camera system. So every single angle is covered here on the C40. It doesn't really need a 360 camera because it's such a small crossover, but it's nice that it has it. Now taking a look at the rest of the infotainment system. First off, this has Google integration. You guys probably could tell by the map there. It's a Google map in the center. You can use Apple CarPlay if you don't want to use that for some reason. But you have this nice shortcut bar there at the bottom, which will let you scroll through some menus. So like it lets me know range, for example, currently again with the temperature and the state of charge. And then notice I have heated seats and heated steering wheel. And then we've got our automatic climate controls. You can do it manually if you want, but it's got a really good auto system. And then that little settings tab right there lets you go through a bunch of different things. So charging, for example, you can look into this so you can see everything that's happening on that side of things. And then driving, this is where you actually can change your drive mode. It has an off-road mode. I don't know why anyone would take this off-road, but it's got it. But the bigger thing is we've got one pedal drive turned on and then also the steering set to firm. Now just some analog controls for like the defroster and volume control, you know, pretty normal stuff. Down here we've got 12 volts, some USBs, and then a wireless phone charging pad, and then we have this random storage pocket. I don't understand it. Now this is our shifter. It's actually hollow, which is kind of interesting. Really easy to use, just pretty much one touch for the different functions. And then you guys can see some cup holders here. And then we have like our little garbage can. It's kind of like a Volvo thing. I just got it stuck. There we go. Anyways, center console. Got some nice padding and stitching there. And then you guys can see pretty normal glove box. And look at the trim there. And then it is soft touch on the dash. Now, like most cars, it has lights on the top. And then like most EVs, it has this cool glass roof. So I'm not sure how good the focus is going to be on the window sticker for this, but all we really need to know is the price. After all options on this specific one, $60,540. And then if you guys are wondering, again, the EPA range went over earlier, and then also the charge time, 8 hours if you have a 240. Let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's your visibility over the hood, both of the mirrors, and then throughout the rest of the rear, and let's set off. So we are on our bumpy, beat up road, and it's a little bit later in the day compared to what I normally do, so you guys can, I guess, see how the headlights perform here. But let's talk about some of the things that I like here about the C40 and some things I don't like, and then we'll do our fun kind of performance driving on the way back. First off, really smooth actually when it comes to the ride quality, and I like the steering in this heavier setting. It feels really good. And the one pedal drive works really well. I definitely prefer it when electric cars have one pedal drive, because then, well, it feels like how an electric car should feel, in my opinion. And again, this is, you know, heavier compared to, you know, like a gas-powered version. Well, there is no gas-powered version of the C40, but like a vehicle similar in size. But it hides it pretty well. Handling's good, and power's great. Now, obviously, I do have the power kind of neutered a little bit, I guess the way that I'll put it, because of, you know, the cold, and I also have the range. Ooh, that back end just popped up quite a bit. I have the range kind of neutered a little bit also because of the cold. And this definitely shows a downside with electric vehicles. The fact that you lose so much power and range just because it's a little bit cold outside. I mean, it's 24 degrees here, so that's not a little bit cold, that's quite a bit cold. But anyways, I guess the thing that I'd like to say there is, like, I mean, you can have like heaters in the battery area to like make it so you don't lose as much and all that, but still, I just think that electric cars in general need to just be way more efficient, especially in the cold, before there's gonna be more adoption. But you know, that's all electric cars, that's not just the C40 here. Okay, so we're gonna brake boost this a little bit. Again, this is acceleration when it's 23 degrees outside, and I guess the car's not giving us full power. Oh, that still punches, wow. And boom. Whoa. Yeah, that still punches quite hard. Wow. That's pretty impressive. And braking's also solid as well. So there you go. There you go on that one. Yeah, that was interesting. That is for sure. Now, in terms of the handling with this, just like most electric cars, lower center of gravity, so it handles pretty well, especially compared to like most crossovers that are this size. But again, it ultimately is a pretty short wheelbase vehicle, so like on this bumpy road, you know, it does bounce around a little bit, do lose a little bit of control with it, is what I can kind of feel. So I think you can have some fun with this. I mean, it's, wow, it's fast, but man, does that suspension go all over the place. Oh yeah, so it's got the acceleration. In terms of the controllability though, not quite there, but I don't think anyone buying this is really going to be like hustling this down a back road. I think that, you know, maybe they'll kind of hustle it on some smooth pavement. Man, this thing just, it's so cold up here that the windows are just fogging up super fast. So summing things up here with the C40, I actually like it for an electric car. I reviewed quite a few electric cars this year, and this is one of the ones that I like the most. I like the pricing, I like the interior, I like the exterior styling, I like how this drives. Only a couple criticisms if Volvo happens to be watching this for some reason. More range, I think that would help out quite a bit. I understand, you know, they did the battery pack the size they did for weight purposes and all that, but I think people would be okay with a slightly bigger battery pack with this and having more range, close to like 300 miles at least. And then, you know, Volvo, come on. I mean, you guys are a Swedish company. It's like super cold up there. They should have a heater or something, you know, for the cold temperatures, because yeah, the amount of range that you lose in the cold and the acceleration and everything, it's not a deal breaker, but you know, yeah, like I said, it's a Swedish company. You'd think they'd have something for that. But anyways, overall, I want you guys to let me know what you think about the C40. I think it's a pretty cool EV. And I will say this every single time I review an EV that's not a Tesla. This is just another reason why you shouldn't buy a Tesla. That's gonna sum things up with our video on this Volvo C40. And with that being said, I'll see all of you in the next video.